Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wrestling Takes, and today we're going to be talking about the best WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania 28. But before we dive into looking at WrestleMania 28, we need to take a deeper look at the true landscape of the time period. The year is 2012. Man City are Premier League champions. Uh, Chelsea are Champions League champions. Uh, no. I did not want to start this video on such a negative tone. Let's move on to some of the better things that happened in 2012. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 had just released, and after 7 long years, the Great One, The Rock, had finally made his return to professional wrestling. That's right, after 7 years away pursuing a career in Hollywood, The Rock had finally made his return and he was ready to have his first singles match back in the WWE, and it was going to happen at WrestleMania 28. While all of this was happening, little 4-year-old me had just started watching wrestling and I was the biggest John Cena fan ever. I was that kid wearing the green hat, the green shirt, never give up, hustle, loyalty, respect. I had the whole lot. The Cena action figures, I was the biggest Cena fan you can imagine. But at the time, I also did love The Rock, so to me and to many others across the world, this was the biggest match in wrestling history. Even now in 2023, 11 years later, we have never seen a match such as of the scale of John Cena versus The Rock, the most hyped, the most anticipated, the biggest match in wrestling history. I mean, come on, the whole point of the WrestleMania 27 main event was just to hype up the WrestleMania 28 main event. That's how big this match was. But before we do dive in to look at the once in a lifetime match, there is a plethora of other matches that we need to take a look at. So without further ado, let's get started. The opening match was one of the most controversial matches in WWE history, the World Heavyweight Championship match between Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. Walking into this match, Daniel Bryan was the World Heavyweight Champion. He'd had the title since TLC 2011, where he cashed in his Money in the Bank to defeat Mark Henry and The Big Show. And at the time, he was classed as a heel. Obviously, he was with AJ Lee on screen, but the fans were very much behind him. And this night is very iconic as being the birth of the Yes Movement. And 2 years later at WrestleMania 30, this would all culminate in the Miracle on Bourbon Street, where Daniel Bryan would become WWE World Heavyweight Champion. But that is something to talk about in another video. Today we're talking about his opening match at WrestleMania 28 against the Royal Rumble 2012 winner, Sheamus. As a 4-year-old kid and an Englishman, Sheamus was one of my favourites. Obviously, he's Irish, but kind of local. And I just loved Sheamus. With the orange hair and the very pale white skin as a kid, he just stood out completely from the rest of the roster. And Sheamus, honestly, man, even to this day, one of my favourite wrestlers on in the whole of WWE, and one of the most underrated performers ever. The World Heavyweight Champion Daniel Bryan made his way to the ring with the yes chants, the no, no, yes, yes, I'm sure you can all remember, alongside AJ Lee. And this is where the true beauty of the WrestleMania 28 stage and stadium stands out. The palm trees, the Miami sunset. What a stadium and location that was. And another side note, the WrestleMania 28 theme songs were the best ever. Three absolute bangers. Wild Ones by Sia and Flo Rida, Good Feeling by Flo Rida, and Invincible by Machine Gun Kelly. Whenever I hear any of these three songs, it just immediately reminds me of WrestleMania 28. I'm sure it's the same for all of you guys who grew up watching wrestling around this time. The referee rang the bell and the match was underway. But Daniel Bryan turned his back to give AJ Lee a good luck kiss, and my God, was this a mistake. He turned around and ate a massive bro kick from Sheamus. 1, 2, 3, that is it. The quickest title match in WrestleMania history. 18 seconds was all it took for Sheamus to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. The crowd popped like crazy at first, just due to the pure shock factor of the match. But upon reflection, I think everyone was kind of let down because these two would go on to have a rematch at Extreme Rules a couple of months later, and it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, and this was an incredible match where Sheamus got to show his incredible in-ring skills as well as Daniel Bryan. And this is where a lot of fans began to realise that WWE weren't really seeing Daniel Bryan as a main eventer, and he just lost his title within 18 seconds. Like, is that really what he deserved? Not particularly. But as a kid, like I say, I was only 4-year-old at the time. I didn't know the ins and outs of the business. I was ecstatic. 18 seconds, Sheamus, new World Heavyweight Champion, one of my favourite wrestlers on the card. My God, I loved it. But yeah, upon reflection, definitely the wrong choice. But in the long term, it would probably weirdly turned out to be the right choice, as if that never happened, I don't think we get to see that Daniel Bryan become World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania 30. I really don't. This was a huge moment in turning fan momentum in favor of Daniel Bryan. After such a hectic start, the show needed to be calmed down a bit, and it was, with a very good match to be fair between Kane and Randy Orton. But this match was a bit flat. Around this time period, Kane was having some very strange matches. He was main eventing pay-per-views against John Cena in ambulance matches, fighting Randy Orton at WrestleMania, which on paper seems like a great match. It could be the main event for a title, but there wasn't really much build to it, and it didn't really make sense. Obviously, this is still masked Kane we're talking about here before he joins the Authority about 2 years later. But yeah, in a shocking turn of events, Kane actually defeated Randy Orton, which this is only 3 years after bald, iconic '09 Orton, so you'd think he would still be getting the win. But no, it was Kane defeating Randy Orton with, to be fair, a pretty iconic top rope choke slam to get the job done for the 1, 2, 3, and Kane defeated Randy Orton. Overall, this wasn't really a very memorable match. I just kind of wanted to gloss over it a bit, but yeah, worth mentioning. And Kane defeated Randy Orton. The next match was for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, and when you look at this title, it's just a pure thing of beauty. The white strap across the IC title in Cody Rhodes' hands just looks amazing. And I really hope if Cody Rhodes does dethrone Roman Reigns that he does go back to a classic style like the Winged Eagle. Maybe the old World Heavyweight Championship would be very cool to see like he did with the old IC title. But Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 28 was defending his title against The Big Show. Now, the whole story for this match was that The Big Show had never had a WrestleMania moment. He'd always come this close. Obviously, at WrestleMania 25, he lost the triple threat for the World Heavyweight Championship against Edge and John Cena. He just never really had that moment where he won a title or had a big moment at a WrestleMania. And finally, at WrestleMania 28, it would come for him. Although we did mention Extreme Rules 2012 a bit earlier in the video, and it would be a bit disappointing as Big Show, although he would win the title here at Mania, he would go on to lose it back to Cody Rhodes a month later. So it was obvious that they only gave him the title just for him to become a Grand Slam champion and it to be a bit of a moment for him. But yeah, this match again, not really much to talk about, similar to the Kane versus Randy Orton one, not one of the most memorable matches on the card. But like I say, it is worth mentioning when you talk about WrestleMania 28. Still not a bad match by any means. But yeah, Big Show walked out as the IC champion, which I don't think many of us remember. Anyway, let's move on to the next match. One of the more noticeable things when you look back at these old events is how bad the women's division was. Obviously, back then it was classed as the Divas title, and it was a women's tag match that was on this show, and it really wasn't very good. So I'm not really going to mention that very much. We'll just skip over to the next match, and this one, it's very iconic. I feel like every match on this show had like a brand nickname to it, a little bit of a slogan. Obviously, you had Once in a Lifetime with Cena and Rock, and this one was the end of an era, and it lived up to its slogan. The year prior, WrestleMania 28 had been a very disappointing show, but the one saving grace about it was the match between the Game Triple H and The Undertaker. That match lived up to its stature, and obviously The Undertaker extended his streak at that show. So, the year later, they decided to do a rematch. Actually, the third time these two have faced off at WrestleMania. They also faced off at WrestleMania 17, which is one of the best WrestleManias of all time. But for the third match, WrestleMania 28, Triple H versus The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell with HBK, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. Just 2 years prior at WrestleMania 26, The Undertaker had ended Shawn Michaels' career by defeating him in a streak versus career match, keeping Taker's streak intact. So in this one, the odds were stacked against Taker. HBK and Triple H, obviously great friends from D Generation X, both locked inside together against The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell. You can sort of guess where this one was going to go. HBK doing everything he could to help Triple H end The Undertaker's iconic WrestleMania streak. Now, if you thought Triple H versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 27 was good, then this one was absolutely outstanding. The Hell in a Cell stipulation really added to this match a lot of great spots. Undertaker doing the iconic leg drop on the side of the apron. Just looks like he absolutely crushes Triple H's neck, which I don't believe that he doesn't do that, but obviously he doesn't because Triple H gets up. Shawn Michaels actually hits Triple H with a sweet chin music. Undertaker puts Shawn Michaels in Hell's Gate. He chokeslams the iconic referee Charles Robinson. This match is just absolutely chaos. The biggest moment of the match came when Shawn Michaels hit The Undertaker with a sweet chin music, Taker was dazed. He stumbled around and was hit with a pedigree by Triple H. The crowd went silent. 20 years of a streak gone. Michaels got down. He went for the count. 1, 2. The streak lives. The Undertaker, the dead man, has risen. Somehow, from the grips of defeat, the Undertaker rises from the dead and kicks out of the Sweet Chin Music pedigree combo. If the streak was ever going to end, which in my opinion it should never have, then this was the moment where it should have happened. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Attitude Era throwback really is the end of an era. What a time, what a match, what a place, what a time to be alive. Honestly, Taker gets up from that and he just absolutely pile drives Triple H into the mat. 1, 2, 3. Triple H, nothing he can do about it. In my opinion, this match was the best match of the card from an in-ring perspective. You had sledgehammer spots, steel step spots, stuff got happening outside the cage. Shawn Michaels hitting Sweet Chin Music's getting put in Hell's Gate. What a crazy match it was. And at the end, a really nice touch where The Undertaker, Michaels, and Triple H, after that bloody encounter, just hugged it out on the ramp as they stood out there at WrestleMania one last time together. Looking back at this show, I can't believe that that match was just slammed right in the middle of the card. It really should have been one of the main events. But the next match is where it kind of took a turn for the worst. Team Teddy versus Team John Laurinaitis, Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, and the winner meant that their general manager would take control of both shows. Team Raw, also referred to as Team John Laurinaitis, looking back was a pretty star-studded team. You had Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, Drew McIntyre, David Otunga, Mark Henry, Jack Swagger, and Brie Bella. Team Theodore Long was also pretty stacked. He had Nikki Bella, Kofi Kingston, R-Truth, The Great Khali, Hornswoggle, Zack Ryder, and WWE Hall of Famer Booker T. Not much of note really happened in this match. There was a couple of funny spots with Hornswoggle getting thrown into the Great Khali and Mark Henry and all sorts of stuff like that. But overall, Team John Laurinaitis, also Team Raw, walked out with the win, meaning that Teddy Long lost his job as general manager of SmackDown. Overall, this match was fun. Getting to see Booker T at WrestleMania one last time was good. Getting to see the likes of Ziggler, McIntyre, Miz on the card, who all did deserve to be there. But yeah, sort of one that you can really gloss over if you're going to go and watch it back. But anyway, let's move on to the final two matches, and they are pretty big ones. The penultimate match on the card was Chris Jericho versus CM Punk for the WWE title. And just before this match started, John Laurinaitis informed CM Punk that he would not have champion's advantage for the match, which means that if he gets disqualified or counted out, he will lose his title. Even with all these added stipulations and odds stacked against him, CM Punk did still manage to walk out with the win. And as a kid, other than one of my favorite wrestlers, CM Punk, I love this rivalry. Honestly, Chris Jericho on about CM Punk's dad being an alcoholic, Punk doing the drug tests and everything. I didn't really understand the whole situation as a kid, obviously, but I just knew I hated Chris Jericho. Most of the fans always cheered him, obviously him being an Attitude Era veteran. But yeah, great heel Chris Jericho getting under my skin as a kid. But CM Punk, I absolutely loved him. Still to this day, probably my favorite wrestler bar John Cena. But yeah, another absolute five-star classic, and you can definitely tell why Punk was not happy that he wasn't main eventing. He was the champion for 434 days and didn't get to main event at WrestleMania. Kinda sad, really, when you look back. That's why I really hope that him and Rollins do get to main event this year's night one of WrestleMania. Without further ado, I think it's time we talked about the big match, the once in a lifetime that happened the next year. Doesn't really make sense, does it? But yeah, the slogan was once in a lifetime, but then it main evented the year after. Also, another reason why I understand CM Punk's frustrations. But as a kid, the whole thing just made sense. Cena's redemption arc, just loved it as a kid. But yeah, and that's a video for another day. Let's talk about WrestleMania 28's main event, John Cena versus The Rock. As I mentioned earlier, this match had been built since WrestleMania 27. The main event of WrestleMania 27 was The Miz versus John Cena for the WWE title, and obviously nobody thought The Miz was walking out of there as champ, but he did, due to The Rock interfering and attacking John Cena, therefore setting up the match at WrestleMania 28. The further added to it at Survivor Series 2011, having John Cena and The Rock against The Miz and R-Truth, and after the match where John Cena and The Rock won, The Rock hit Cena with a rock bottom, and then all the way up until then, they just built towards the match. Surprisingly, they did not have the main event for the title, which I thought they would do, but honestly, Cena versus The Rock didn't need the title. And as I also did mention at the very start of this video, I was the biggest John Cena fan. So I was very disappointed by the result of this match. Bit of a spoiler, but yep, I think you all know The Rock did defeat John Cena in the once in a lifetime match. But what a match this was, regardless of the result. What a match. The arena, the hype, the crowd, the location, the stadium, the set, everything about this match was just screaming mainstream. The match was, in my opinion, the biggest match of all time. You can argue Austin and Rock and Hogan are bigger, but this is all of us PG era kids' version of the Attitude Era matches. Honestly, what a time to be alive. Cena versus The Rock. We'll never see a match like it ever. You had all the old school fans in the arena chanting Rocky. You had all the kids and people with the kids chanting for Cena. Honestly, just good vibes around. And great match too, to be fair. A lot of finisher spams. You had Cena hitting AAs. Had him hitting leg drops from the top, five knuckle shuffles, getting the Rock locked in the STF. You had the Rock hitting spine busters, locking in the sharp shooter, laying the Smackdown, hitting Rock bottoms, hitting the most electrifying move in all of sports entertainment, the People's Elbow. And also, yeah, Jerry the King Lawler calling it, which what is better than that? Jerry Lawler and the Rock combination. There is nothing better in life than that. The finish of the match was very creative in my opinion. You had Cena with a lack of judgment, which is actually very unsurprising for his character. He got too overconfident, which could have been a slight opportunity for him to turn heel, which would have been very interesting leading into WrestleMania 29. But Cena mocks The Rock. He does the people's elbow. Well, he attempts to do the people's elbow, but while running back, The Rock gets to his feet and nails Cena with a rock bottom, getting the 1, 2, 3. Like I said, I think it would be very interesting if Cena being cocky had led to him turning heel after WrestleMania 28. But I guess that's something we'll have to talk about in another video. Let me know in the comments, guys, if that's something you want to see. How I would have booked John Cena's heel turn in 2012. But yeah, the Rock walked out of the stadium, the main event, with the victory, and what a match it was. In my opinion, the best WrestleMania of all time, at least my favourite. Guys, let me know in the comments what is your favourite WrestleMania of all time, and did I do this WrestleMania justice in this video? Please do be honest in the comments and let me know. And I appreciate you all for watching. Stay tuned for the more content coming over the coming months. See ya.